Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, and this is going to be the tutorial for putting together this album that I made with the Fall Breeze collection from Country Craft Creations. I already posted the cutting guide, and I went ahead and prepped both my lay flat album, and I will put the link to that tutorial below. I have the hinge portion right here. I wanted to go over this with you quickly. In the cut guide, I have a sliver cut off from either end here, so from each ½ inch on the either end. So I wanted to just go over that quickly with you. I'm just gonna put this in my cutter, and just like that, I'm taking off just that little sliver right. So I'm gonna go ahead and just place glue on this. Just refilled this glue bottle and it's a little bit wet. But that's okay, make it work. So there we go. So now we have our hinge for 3 pages right there. So I'm gonna go ahead and take my album, and this is what I call the inside spine cover. So this is gonna go right here. It measures 5 inches by 7 7/8. So I'm gonna place my glue right here on the spine piece. And I'm gonna go ahead and lay that down. I'm just eyeballing it center to center, top to bottom. And I'll go ahead and burnish that. I am using the, what is it, Gold Pearl? For this tutorial, the Artisan Cardstock. If you haven't used this Artisan Cardstock, you are missing out, because it is just beautiful to work with. So I'm giving it a nice crease right there on either side, and then I'm going to bend this down and place glue on this, because all I was doing was pressing it into that spot in order to train the paper to go there. So that's it. Good hard press. Okay. Now, this beautiful album works really well. And if you want to go ahead and put your decorative paper down first on the spine and then glue this down, that's probably what I'm going to be doing. So I'm going to go ahead and do the construction of the pages with you next. So we're first going to be taking our scoreboard, and you should have your sheets A, and I want to place the A page with the 8 7/8 inch at the top of my scoreboard, and I'm going to score it at ½ inch here, and then at 8 3/8, or if you feel more comfortable, you can turn it around and do a ½ inch score on this side, just like that. So I'm going to do that to all 3 of my A pieces. I usually just do a quick turn, just like that. And I'm going to do all of my scoring, and then I'll come back and do all of the burnishing. This makes it, in my opinion, a bit easier. And I'm just going to continue to stack them off to the side in order. So now I have my B piece. I'm going to place this in my scoreboard with the 12 inches along the top, and I'm going to score this at 4½ inches, just like that. Let's place this to the side and do my other 2. that. That's all my B pieces. Now I'm going to take my C piece and I'm going to place this with the 12-inch at the top of my scoreboard, and I'm going to score this at 7 3/4. I'm going to score this at 1/2 inch and 7.5 inches. So 1/2 inch and 7.5 inches. That's my C piece. 1/2 inch, 7.5. Okay, next is the D piece, and this is the pocket. So I'm going to place this with my 4 5/8 inches at the top, and I'm going to score this at 1/2 inch. And I'm going to turn this, and I'm going to score this at 1/2 inch. And then because we cut this just short of 5.5, I want to actually turn this all the way around and make sure to score at 1/2 inch on each side, okay? So that way we get our pocket with the correct measurement there. Okay, again, with the 4 5/8 inch at the top, you're going to score it at 1/2 inch, and then you'll turn it and make your other 2 score marks at 1/2 inch on the other ends. Okay, and that is our D piece. Then I'm going to work with our E, which is the back page pocket insert. So this measures 3 5/8 by 8 7/8. And I'm going to score with the 8 7/8 inch on the top of my scoreboard at 3 1/4 inches. 3 1/4. Okay, that's the inserts. Next, I'm going to do my F piece, which is the page inserts, and these measure 7.5 inches wide by 7 1/4 inches tall, and I have no scoring to do on those. So, next thing I have the cover inside assembly, and I am going to start with the 4 pieces that are gatefold. The 4 pieces that are the gatefold, and those measure 4 3/8 inches by 7 3/8 inches. And on the 4 3/8 inch side, I'm just going to score it at 1/2 inch. I'm going to do that to all 4 of these. Okay, you're going to use 2 for the front cover and 2 for the back cover. Okay. Next, I'm going to have my corner angle pocket, and I should have 2 pieces that measure 3.5 by 3.5. And I'm going to score those at 1/2 inch on all 4 sides. Okay. Just like that, all 4 sides on both of them. Set those aside. Next, I'm going to have the 2 pieces that are the gatefold flat page. So those measure 8 3/8 by 7 7/8, and with the 8 3/8 inch side at the top, you're just going to score it at 1/2 inch. Just like that. Okay, and now I'm going to do the front cover inside add-ons. So you should first have a left-hand flap. That is this right here. We're going to work on this. So you're going to have this, and then you're going to have the top flap short, the top flap long, and then we'll do the pocket after that. So we're on these. The left flap, it measures 4 1/8 inch by 7 7/8 inches, and with the 4 1/8 inch at the top, we're going to score it at 1/2 inch. Okay, and you have the short piece, and that measures 3 5/8 inches wide and 4.5 inches long. And with the 4.5 inches at the top, we're going to score it at 1/2 inch. That's this top flap. Okay. Then we have the long one, which is the top flap long, same width, but the length is 7 7/8 inches. So with that at the top, we're going to score that at 1/2 inch as well. Lastly, we have the pocket, and that should be just less than 8 7/8 inches. And then 4 1/8 inch in width, and you're going to score that at 1/2 inch on 3 sides, both short sides and 1 long side. And that is for our pocket. Okay, last piece is going to be that for the back cover. That is this. this right here. Okay. So with your 7 3/4 inch at the top and your 7 7/8 inch in length, is that right, Nicole? Give me a boo-boo there. It needs to be 7 7/8 inch. Yes, okay, this is correct. With 7 3/4 inches at the top, we're going to score it at 1/2 inch and 4 1/8 inches. That is most likely the very first tick mark past your 4-inch mark on your scoreboard. So now that's it for our scoring. I'm gonna set this aside. And now we're gonna start with our burnishing and our cutting of the pockets. And I'm gonna go ahead and get most of the way through this, and I'll come back and do the pockets and the corner pockets and the regular pockets with you all. Okay, when I was doing the walkthrough, I mentioned that there's an alternative for any of those that don't want to put seam binding inside of your album because it creates too much bulk or whatnot, and that I was tying my bow over to the side to allow this to lay flatter. The other thing that I mentioned during that video as an alternative was to be able to do overlapping cardstock here, and you could use a magnet closure or a belly band closure as an alternative, and this belly band closure would be a sliding mechanism back and forth to allow you to open up these two flaps. So I'm going to go ahead and show you that alternative. For this, I cut 2 pieces of 2-inch wide cardstock by 6 inches long, and then I went ahead on the 6-inch side and I scored at 1/2 inch and 3/4 inch. And in doing that, it gives me a little 1/4 inch gusset to use for this front and back piece. So I'm going to do this on the front and show you how to do that. And then I also used a piece of 2-inch wide cardstock that is just shorter than 6 inches. I think I cut this about 5 7/8 inches in length. And then what I did is I like to give a little bit of space for this wraparound closure to actually have a little bit of a gusset as well, if you can see that. To me, that makes it easier for it to slide back and forth along these other pieces of cardstock. And if I wanted to put some decorative paper in there on those pieces right here, I could do so because it allows for that to be a little bit thicker. So what I do is with the shorter, the longer side up against my scoreboard, top of my scoreboard here, I'm gonna first start with scoring at 2 inches and 4 inches. And then what I'm gonna do is just shift my paper over just slightly and go ahead and do another score at the 2-inch mark, and then shift it over even further yet and do another score again at the 2-inch mark. That's gonna give me the first score at 2 inch, and then prior to that, another 2 scores. And when I do the folding on there, it gives it a bit of a rounded edge, if you can see that right there. Okay. For the second location, I had first scored at 4 inches, and then similarly, I'm gonna shift over my paper just slightly, and I'm gonna score at 4 1/8. And then I'm going to shift it again and score at 4 1/8. I want the 2 and the 4 inch scores to be there, and then outward score again and again, okay, so that I have a 2-inch width inside of those score lines. The reason for that is the width of these. So when I wrap this around, I'm going to make sure that it's not tight, but this way I can do a quick glue on one end here of this, and then on this end of this. And I don't want it to be tight, so I'm just going to hold it with my fingers here. Okay. This is paper, so we'll just allow that art glitter glue just a second to dry. Okay. Now we have our little belly band, and so what happens is this goes slid into one side, and then the other side slides in on top of this. And if we have our sides glued down, then this mechanism will be able to be slid over to this one side, and then we can open our closure, okay? So that's a fun way to get this done instead of a seam binding, and it lays a bit flatter, okay? So let's go ahead and get started with the page construction first. So recall all three of these are the same. Okay, so we're going to have our A piece, which we've burnished the top and the bottom of, and this is going to help create a pocket for us. Then we're going to have our B piece. So our B piece is going to lay on top of our A piece with those 2 1/2-inch scores folded up. Okay, so they're folded inward. And our B piece is going to have your flap on the left-hand side of your page. So you'll lay this right down just like that, lining up the outer or the folded side of this flap, okay? If you have a little bit of extra on your page, that's not a problem. We'll go ahead and trim that up so it's nice and flush very easily. Okay. Yeah, okay. So let me go ahead and place some glue on this flap here. I'll place some glue on this flap here. And again, with this B piece flap on the left-hand side, I'm going to go ahead and line up that outer edge and burnish this down. Okay. This gives you your pocket page. Okay. And this is what will end up going onto your hinge piece right here. Okay. Let's see, Nicole, what I'm doing here. If your hinge is a little bit long, I encourage you just to angle the ends of your hinges. Is a fast way to go ahead and fix any issue that you may have with your hinge being too long. So just like that, we're able to put that right in there. And what I am noticing is that this page shows, you see that? A little bit on this end. Not sure if I got my measurement off. But because it's paper, what I'm going to do is just trim it. And just like that, now it's flush. All fixed. No big deal. Okay? All right, so what we have is the back side of our page here, which is this section right here. Now we're going to do the front piece of this page. So all we have to do is turn this over like so. And what we're going to do is we're going to work on this piece right here. Okay, this flap. Then you're going to grab this C piece. B piece inside. So the C piece, you should have a 1/2 inch measurement, and that 1/2 inch is going to go right inside of your pocket. Okay? The right-hand side of your pocket. So what you're going to do is you're going to make sure to put glue on the inside of that 1/2 inch strip. Just like that. And then you're going to slide that in to the pocket, just right up to that score line, but not overlapping the score line. And then you'll, oops, mine slipped out. Make sure that it's centered top to bottom, if that's what you prefer. That's what I did on my album. It's centered from top to bottom, okay? And this is the front of your page. So just like that, we have a pocket page that has the flap on the front, like this. It opens like that. Okay, and then when we flip it over, you have your flap on the back. So we're going to do 3 more of those very quickly. Okay, the next thing I have are my back page flap pockets, which I have already burnished, and I'm just going to cut out those 2 bottom squares. Some folks may miter these, but I prefer just to cut them out in a square. I think it's fast enough to do that, and it works quite well for me. The way that I like to fold up my pockets is to have the sides folded in first, place a little bit of glue down at the bottom, and then I go ahead and fold up the bottom. This way, when I'm sticking stuff in the pocket, I find that it catches less on the bottom of the pocket because the sides tend to hold themselves out away from the bottom of the pocket. Some people like to go ahead and place their bottom of their pocket. I'll tell you an alternative. So this is the back side of our page. Some people like to go ahead and place the bottom of the pocket up against the bottom of your page that you're going to be doing, and then hold this tight and go ahead and just place some gift wrapping tape there, some clear tape down there, and then fold the sides in. Either way, you still end up with the same version of gluing the pocket. So fold the sides in. I just don't do that extra step of the gift wrapping tape. You know, if my little tags are coming out a little bit, I'm okay with that. It's a deep enough pocket, I think, as it is. So, okay. Just give that glue a second to dry. Burnished really well. So now I'm going to go ahead and place these pockets on to that back flap. And what I do is I make sure to align the pocket with this end, this right-hand side of the page flap. I just like the look of that better, so I'm going to go ahead and place glue on the back side of my pocket flaps. Align the bottom corner, my page flap. Go ahead and burnish that down. Okay, you'll notice that your pocket is just a little bit smaller than your page. Or you should notice that anyhow. Okay, now you have your pocket. The next cut piece is your insert. So that goes in just right there. Okay, let me go ahead and do the other 2 very quickly. Okay, the last part to this was the insert. So the insert will just go right into your pocket just like that, but you may not want to put it in just yet until you have your page on the hinge. So I'm gonna go ahead and glue this hinge down into my album, but first I'm gonna go ahead and put some decorative paper on the back of my spine, and I'll be right back. Okay, I have the center part of my spine covered with my decorative paper, and then I have inked my hinge up so that I can go ahead and glue this down. I'm gonna place glue on just the bottom side of those two gussets, and then I'm gonna go ahead and center this best I can just by eyeballing it top to bottom, left to right. I'm gonna fold either side in, and then I'm gonna go ahead and burnish that down. Make sure that you get this hinge on really well, stuck down to your paper, since that's where most of the action is going to be taking place. Burnish it just like that. And now we have our hinges on just like that. Okay. I also went ahead and inked up my end pieces that I'm going to go ahead and place on this version of my album so that I can use this as the closure, the sliding mechanism closure here. But the other thing that I did on the other one was to go ahead and do a little end of my seam binding, tape it down with some double-sided tape on either side. And what I do is I lay the seam binding across like this and stretch it out so that I can figure out where the next location is to glue the other end of my seam binding down, or the other piece, I should say, of my seam binding down. And that way they are directly across from each other. I just used about halfway of the page for the location of my seam binding, and I'm gonna do the same thing with these pieces right here. Now, make sure you don't glue your 1/4 inch gusset, but you do wanna place your glue on the 1/2 inch. Then I'm going to just eyeball this again top to bottom and make sure that I'm not placing this inside of the gusset of my spine, but just right next to it. Okay. Get that burnished down really well. And then I'm going to go ahead and lay this over just like this. And I'm going to use this to align my second piece. So just like that. Let me place my glue. Then again, I'm going to align with the outside of my album, making sure not to glue that 1/4 inch gusset. And I'm just going to burnish this down. Open it up. And burnish that down. Again, too much glue, Nicole. Too much glue. It's okay. Okay, so just like that, this is how the sliding mechanism works. Let you pull it over to the side and it opens up. You shift it over to the middle and it holds closed the overlapping pieces there. Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and do some inking on my pages, but then all I'm gonna do is go ahead and attach my pages. I'll do it as a dry fit right onto my hinge. I start with the last page first so that I can align my page on the bottom and the top to the center, and then I glue it down, and then I will work my way right to the front of the album. So second one, glue that down onto the hinge. not all the way to the bottom of the hinge, because you want to leave space for these pages to turn. Last one. Go ahead and do this. Put this one on. And just like that, I have all 3 pages dry fit into my album, and now it's time to do the front cover. Okay, the last part to this was the insert. So the insert will just go right into your pocket just like that, but you may not want to put it in just yet until you have your page on the hinge. So I'm gonna go ahead and glue this hinge down into my album, but first I'm gonna go ahead and put some decorative paper on the back of my spine, and I'll be right back. Okay, so inside the front cover, we're gonna work on the assembly, and you're gonna have 2 of your gatefold flap pages. Those measures the 8 3/8 inches by 7 7/8 inch in height, and you scored at 1/2 inch on the 8 3/8 side. So you're gonna fold that first 1/2 inch underneath, and we're gonna go ahead and place some glue on that flap. And then we're gonna go ahead and snuggle this right up to your seam, either your seam binding or your piece that you're gonna use for a slide closure. But just again, make sure that you don't go on top of that fold line. You wanna be right next to it. So I'm gonna burnish that down. Just make sure it is straight from top to bottom, okay? And then on top of that, you're gonna have your gatefold pieces. So let's grab those. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna glue those right on top, just like this, on either side. So you wanna do a dry fit first. Just make sure that yours aren't overlapping, unless you want them to overlap. That's your prerogative, but I'm not choosing to have mine overlap, so that's the size that worked for me. I'm gonna go ahead and glue that right on top of that bottom page, the gatefold page. So it's just being stacked right on top. And just make sure that you're matching your top and bottom pieces so that glue can go ahead and get burnished down. Okay, I'm gonna do the outside one. Snuggle that right up to that outside edge of that page and line up my bottom, and line up my top, and then burnish that down. Very nice. Okay, and then I'm gonna flip this over, just like that. And now I'm gonna work on my, what I call the add-ons. So this is the left flap. So I'm gonna start with this. I have the 1/2 inch on the side of it, and it's gonna get put right here. Again, if you have a seam binding, it's gonna go up against your seam binding. If you have this slide mechanism closure, don't overlap your fold. If you have the seam binding, you might wanna just line it up with the outer edge of your album. But this is where another dry fit is gonna come in handy, because we do have a pocket that's gonna go inside. And so I'm gonna go ahead and glue down my pocket. So I'm gonna place glue right on the sides there. And then make sure that I've burnished that down. Okay. So now that I have this page with the gatefolds on, I can make sure that this is going to fit. And you should have plenty of room for this fold to go underneath the pocket and fit without pinching your slide mechanism there. Okay, so I'm doing this little dry fit, so I know that's gonna work. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead then and glue this page down. Or this flap anyway. This is the left flap. Center from top to bottom. Open that up. go ahead and center this pocket. So as long as you know that you don't have to trim down your pocket, that's good. That's why I say put this one down first before you do anything with your pocket, or at least do a dry fit so that you know it will end up working for you and it won't be ripping stuff apart, but not to say like I haven't done it before. So now this closes like that, and we're gonna have this long, top flap long is what I called it. I'm gonna go ahead and have this one and my short piece to glue on. I'm gonna start with the short one, and I'm gonna butt the folded edge right up against the top of this left flap. Okay, finish that down. And then I'm gonna snug this folded edge of the long flap right up against the cut piece of that short one. Make sure you line up your edges down here and on the outside. You don't want something hanging over so that your seam binding is gonna get irritated, or your slide closure is gonna get hung up. Okay, I do have a little piece that's hanging over, so I'm just gonna give it a little quick haircut. Just like that. Okay, now you have these two flaps. This close down, this opens up, you have your pocket. This page goes like this, you have your gate folds. And the last thing we have to do is the corner pockets. So for the corner pockets on this Fall Breeze version, I put them on the inside. I think I want to just switch it up with this one that I'm making right now, and I'm going to place these on the outside here. So you should be starting with your 3.5 by 3.5. You've scored it on all four sides at 1/2 inch. Then you're going to place this in your cutter, or use your straight edge, whichever, to go ahead and cut down from corner to corner. Okay, so that you have a straight cut. I'm just going to quickly do this like this. Okay. Put the top back on that so I don't hurt myself. Now, I do cut out those corners on all of my pockets, just like that. And then what I do is fold each one individually up so that I can go ahead and trim this portion back. Just like that. Since I'm inking this one, I'm going to give it a quick ink. And then I'm going to do the same thing with this other corner. Okay, fold this up, give it a little haircut trim, fold this one out over and give it a little haircut trim. And a little inking, and voila, that's ready to go. So, excuse me. Same thing with this pocket. Whichever is going to be the side, I want to fold that in first, place a little dab of glue on that, and then fold up the bottom. Okay, and let that hold. Like I said, I'm going to do it like this on this version. So I'm going to have it on the outside. So now I'm going to go ahead and place that glue down on those flaps, that corner pocket, and line that up with the edges. Nice and straight, hopefully. And then I'll burnish it down. Okay. Second one. Again, make sure I put a little dab of glue on the back side of what will be the side. Hold that down. Let it take hold. And I'm going to place glue on these strips. Place that right there on that corner pocket. As a corner pocket, I should say. Okay. And now that assembly is all together. Slide that closure just like that, belly band. That's very pretty. It's going to look beautiful. Let's flip over to the back. This will just take another couple minutes. So I'm going to do the same thing. Place this down first. This is going to be my closure. Don't put it in the gusset though. Leave some space. Okay. I'm going to line this one. up to the edge of my book. Okay. Just like that. I'm going to go ahead and place this down here on the inside. I want my page to flip towards the rest of the album. Put that over a little. Make sure I have enough space in the inside of the album. Okay. Now I'm going to have my gatefold pieces on the front of this. Line up the top and the bottom. Fold this over, and now I have this last piece as the add-on, the right flap. So I'm going to go ahead and glue on the back side of that 1/2 inch flap. Put that right on the outside. Centered from top to bottom. Push that down. Up. Now this will go like that. Just goes like this. You just need these corner pockets. Put some glue there. The bottom outside in this case. Again, I'm doing this a little bit different than the one that I showed. I'm just changing it up. Instead of putting these corner pockets in the middle, I'm putting them on the outside. So totally up to you. The other thing that I did different was instead of the seam binding, these slide mechanism closures. So just a little variation, that's all. Do one in each format if you like. This has been a fun book to put together. I'm thinking I might do a little mini version to try to use with some 6x6 paper pads. If you want to let me know in the comments below if that's something you're interested in. And I will look into that. Plan on doing one of those if people are interested. So last thing is my wraparound closure. And just like that, we have our book complete. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial, and I hope you show me some of your projects soon. I did do this project. I started it with the Noel Nostalgique with Country Craft Creations. And I hope that you enjoy seeing me make this album, and have a happy Thanksgiving. Many blessings to you all. Thank you for watching. Please make sure to like and subscribe. And I look forward to seeing you all back here soon. Until next time, everyone, happy crafting you all. Bye.